According to legend, the Jersey Devil was born the 13th child of either Mother Leeds or Mrs. Shords of Leeds Point, New Jersey. She cursed her baby before he was born, saying he was a devil and the devil could have him. He was born a normal child, but transformed before her very eyes and flew up the chimney in the night. Versions of the legend vary, but historic records show a Daniel Leeds is established in the area in 1699 and a Samuel Shords on the records for Leeds Point in 1735, after terrorizing South Jersey, eating livestock and screaming in the pines. The Jersey Devil was exorcised by a priest in 1740. This exorcism was to last for 100 years. With the exception of a couple sightings, until 1840 the Jersey Devil was fairly quiet. In 1840, the devil went on a rampage and the region lost a lot of sheep and chickens. Chickens are a favorite food of the Jersey Devil. Residents heard screams in the night and found strange tracks in the woods during the day.
From the Galloway News, Galloway Township, New Jersey, Marie Castellano claims perfect eyesight and sobriety. She also claims that she saw the Jersey Devil flying down Moss Mill Road and Route 9 Sunday night. I saw a winged animal flying down the middle of the road and cling to the pole on the corner near CVS, said Castellano. I stopped my car in the middle of the street and reached for my cell phone to call the police. Castellano said that before she could dial 911, the creature jumped off the pole and started walking on its hind legs toward her car. In a panic, she hit the gas and took off, passing within inches of the beast. It was tall, had glowing red eyes and large black rubbery wings tucked behind its back, she said. It made a loud screaming sound. Castellano added that she looked in the rearview mirror and watched the beast fly over the trees on the side of the road. She arrived home and told her husband Anthony about her frightening experience, and he stopped her from reporting the sighting. I picked up the phone to call the cops, but he said they would think I was nuts, she said. I got some rest and went back to the corner, but I didn't see anything that would prove the Jersey Devil had been there. Castellano is not going to be deterred. She said she is going to go back to the location every night at 9 p.m. until she finds the Jersey Devil or somebody else who may have seen it. She is certain she did not see a deer, a large eagle, or any other form of animal. My husband thinks I saw a deer and my headlights made its eyes turn red, she said. I know what I saw.
The night of January 17th, the Loden family were awakened by a creature circling the house, screaming and trying to open the door. In the morning, they found strange tracks and packed snow around the garbage can, with trash strewn through the yard. Neighbors also found tracks, some obviously leaping on rooftops and across backyards, then randomly disappearing, as if the creature had flown away. Burlington was inundated with devil fever. People wouldn't leave the house, they cowered in fear, locking doors and windows. Search parties were formed, and rewards were offered, but no devil was ever found.
A report by E.W. Minster, postmaster of Bristol, recalls, I awoke about 2 o'clock in the morning, and finding myself unable to sleep, I arose and wet my head with cold water as a cure for insomnia. As I got up, I heard an eerie, almost supernatural sound from the direction of the river. I looked out upon the Delaware and saw it flying diagonally across what appeared to be a large crane, but which was emitting a glow like a firefly. Its head resembled that of a ram, with curled horns, and its long, thick neck was thrust forward in flight. It had long, thin wings and short legs, the front legs shorter than the hind. Again, it uttered its mournful and awful call, a combination of a squawk and a whistle, the beginning very high and piercing and ending low and hoarse.
End of May, around the 25th, 2008, at the exit near Hazlitt, I was watching my odometer, which reached 120666. There were police coming. I could hear the sirens. It was dark and a black Honda had wrecked. The car had hit an SUV and was on the opposite side of the road. The Jersey Devil was on the roof of the car, moving in slow motion. The tail was touching the ground. It was so long. He was gray. I was praying, but he screamed at me. He growled, telling me to leave. He had pointed ears. He was like a giant bat with a pointed tail. He was more like a dragon, with the face of a cat or bat, not so much like a horse as people say. He was moving forward. I almost turned back, but he was screaming for me to go.
My friend and I were driving home from Atlantic City after giving a sizable donation. I had just exited off the Black Horse Turnpike and was on the Garden State Parkway. About 200 yards from where we just got on the parkway, I saw something standing on the right side of the road, looking across to the southbound lanes. I noticed that it was not a man, although it stood upright. What puzzled me were two large bat-like wings protruding from its back. As we got closer, I asked my friend what it was, and he had no idea. All of a sudden, it leaped from the ground and started to fly over the marshland to the right of us. We were only driving at about 50 miles per hour, so we watched as it flew off towards the ocean. Although I cannot describe any facial features, I did notice its tail, which was rather long, its large wingspan, and also the fact that it had arms and legs. It actually fascinated us more than scared us because, of course, living here all our lives, we heard stories of the Jersey Devil but never thought we'd actually see anything. You can choose to believe me or not. It's totally up to you. All I can say is that I wasn't drunk, and I know what I saw was not a giant bird or a deformed human.
It was summer and 11 or so at night, and we were down there getting drunk and silly, maybe 4 couples. There was good light because there was a very bright moon. There was a crashing in the brush right next to the road, which dead ends at the bay with a broken down wooden bridge from the early 1900s, and a large black animal that appeared almost like a big deer with big black wings came out, and swept those wings down and cleared the hoods of the cars. We actually heard the wing brush the windshield of the one car. Needless to say, we all tumbled into the cars and went back to a better lit area. But even the next day when we all sobered up, we all could describe the same thing, right down to the red eyes.
In an isolated spot in the Jersey Pines, about 5 miles from Pleasantville, at a place known as Beaver Pond, one of the linemen, Howard Campbell, was detailed on a piece of work a little distance from the rest of the men on duty. After walking a little way into the woods, his attention was attracted by something coming down the path toward him. He became so frightened by the unusual appearance of the thing that he straightway made for the nearest telegraph pole. Letting out several yells for help and losing his wits entirely by the time he reached the top of the pole, Campbell threw himself out on the mass of wires between the 2 poles and was lying there helpless by the time the rest of the gang, including myself, had arrived. Seeing the terror on the pole, I raised my gun and fired. One shot broke a wing and it fell to the ground, uttering hideous screams, but before anyone could collect his wits the thing was up and off with long strides and a sort of hop, dragging one wing, and then disappearing into the pine thicket. We got ropes and other tackle and helped Campbell down from his precarious position. As nearly as I can describe the terror, it had the head of a horse, the wings of a bat and a tail like a rat's, only longer.
Whatever it was large, between 6 to 8 feet high, with orange-yellow eyes that seemed to burn into the back of my skull, and a set of wings unfurling and curling back up on its back. It appeared to have dark skin, somewhat like a fur. It seemed to have claws that hung out in front of the body, much like the velociraptors from Jurassic Park. The belly ended a couple of feet above the ground, with 2 legs like that of a horse for which it stood on reaching the ground. I was lucky enough for there to be just enough light from the moon and from the dying fire to be able to make out what I did in the dark. The air around me became quite stagnant. I felt almost a paralyzation come over me, as if I could not react or move at all. After what seemed like hours, but was only a few seconds, I attempted to shake my friends awake and close the cover of the tent for fear that whatever it was trying to get in. My flashlight was at the foot of my sleeping bag, but I made no attempt to reach for it, for fear that I would actually see whatever it was. I finally closed the cover and hid inside my sleeping bag, praying that it would go away. I then heard what sounded like hooves walking over rocks and twigs, and a rustling in the bushes further over to the left of my tent, as if whatever it was clambering away. I finally mustered up the courage to take a quick peek outside of the tent and saw nothing outside. We went canoeing the next day, but felt like we were being stalked.
A social club and a trolley full of people both saw a creature matching the descriptions of the previous days. A city councilman in Trenton, New Jersey, heard wings flapping outside his window. He opened the door to find strange hoofprints just outside his home. Chickens that had disappeared on several miles worth of farms in the area during this week mysteriously reappeared this day. They were all dead, but had no visible markings indicating how they died. Later that day, firemen from the West Collingswood Fire Department encountered the Jersey Devil and promptly fired their hose at it. The devil began to retreat, but then turned around and charged at them. Just as it got dangerously close, it suddenly flew off. That night, a Camden woman named Mrs. Sorbinski heard a clamor in her yard. She went outside to see the devil grabbing her dog. Sorbinski grabbed a broom and beat the devil with it until it let go and flew away. The woman screaming and shouting alerted a large crowd of neighbors who called the police and gathered in her yard. When the police arrived, the crowd heard a high-pitched scream from a nearby hill and turned to see the strange creature. The crowd rushed the hill as police shot at the creature. It flew off and was not seen again for the rest of the night.